out of the ordinary insights. Brought to you by Investec Specialist Bank.
Now let's talk a bit about your leadership style. How would you define it?
I think I've got two ways. The one is leadership by embarrassment. I like to tell people that they've done something wrong in a very humoristic way. And then
in front of a lot of people?
In front of people.
That sounds horrendous.
Yes, but they've become used to it now. And we've got a very good team. For me, it started off with, if I select a team, they must be loyal, they must be team players, and they must be trainable, in that order as well. And so we've become some good friends. We've got an excellent team, all graduates, all highly educated, good experience, and I think that's where it starts. Then you trust each other. It's almost like in a rugby team. You trust each other as opposed to. So I don't have a dictative style. I'm a participative style. We all sit together. We make decisions collectively. Very few times in my life I had to make decisions on my own.
We often ask captains of industry on this show the lessons that they've learned from mistakes of the past. Is there anything that stands out for you in that regard?
I think yes, most definitely. You mustn't leave things for too long. You must really do things when that urge starts to happen. And Clover hasn't. In Clover's instance, for example, we waited too long to go to the market. We waited too long to resolve the issues, and then you get behind. You've got to do things.
What stalled the process for you? Just continued discussions, negotiation, meetings? Was it
tough decisions that we had to make in terms of our dual share structure at the time, whether we should split the milk supply from the producers, the farmers? That was a tough decision. We had a minority shareholder that we needed to buy out. And sometimes you have to take these knocks. And talking about HCI, Johnny Copeland used to say to me, life is like a pendulum. You know, the harder you push, the harder it comes back at you. And I think that is exactly that you mustn't do. You know, so you must follow your dream. For us, it all started with a dream. I know exactly where I want to take Clover, but I waited too long maybe to take those hard, tough decisions. And once we've taken it, it's just flown off.
Let's stay with HCI for a moment. They were your BEE component.
Correct.
Where do you stand with that now?
We still have the once empowered, always empowered principle for 3 years, but we are investigating a new
That's almost up now.
It's almost up now, and we are looking at new opportunities for us. And there's been, since we've listed, there's been many more knocks on the door than before, so we can be really choosy in this regard.
But it is crucial to doing business in South Africa. And you will need to close out that transaction as soon as you lose your once empowered, always empowered status.
Yes, we also waiting for the new triple B, double E rules to see exactly how to do it. So it might be a bit premature. We've got about another year left, so we're waiting on that to make sure that we do exactly the right thing. It is very important. It is almost imperative to have your scores right in South Africa, and we subscribe to that. We really subscribe to that.
I pick up in our conversation an aggressive stance when it comes to your competitors. You're going to stay ahead of the pack, you're going to invest more, you are going to pay your staff better than your competitors. So you're creating a moat around you and hopefully creating barriers to entry. Are you going to go on a continued aggressive acquisition spree? You mentioned that you want to bulk up. Is that part of your CapEx aspirations? Well, I suppose not CapEx, it's really money that you're going to put into the fold.
I want to say two things about that. The first is, it's such a household name, it's such a heritage name, Clover. There's no malice towards it. Nobody, everybody wants it to do good and so on. So in a sense, that makes my life quite a bit easier because everybody wants to be associated with Clover or buy the products. It's an aspirational brand, let's put it that way. So what we're trying to do is to say, if you continue to play the game that your competitors play, maybe it's low price, high volumes, and you don't differentiate yourself, you can never change the industry if you don't go big and if you don't have long-term vision. So we are spending long-term because that's the only time when you can change the dynamics of the industry to raise the bar. And that's what we want to do. So a big component of our expenditure will be on capacity, meaning in our distribution capacity, where we can give better services to us and our principals.
You've got about 23 distribution centres at the moment in the fold, is that correct?
We've got 33. If you include the satellites, 33. And that gives us really the competitive advantage. So in terms of your question about mergers and acquisition, our business philosophy is we will always first look whether there's some other some other place to buy than put it up greenfield, because it's always cheap, easier and much better to have your time to market slower. So we are continuously looking on the M&A side.
How do you feel now being a listed company? Obviously, it was your dream to list the company, but with that comes responsibilities. It becomes the accountability to shareholders, regular communication. How are you finding that now, being the CEO of a listed company, and the additional pressure that is exerted on you?
I'm most probably the luckiest person in the world, because I've had more pressures before we were listed.
So this is plain sailing for you?
So the producers were our shareholders, and I had to do 5 roadshows 3 times a year to them. Now it's everybody's treated as a shareholder. It's only twice a year, so I've got less pressure from that point of view. But it's difficult to manage the business in 6 months pockets, and I'm pretty sure everybody will complain about that, because you want to do long-term things.
Look through the cycle.
And that is what we want. But we're fortunate that we've got long-term shareholders, people that keep on saying to us, do the same, more of the same. Because we took a bold step last year to launch 4 new products. Normally companies don't do that, because it hits your income statement, you can't amortize it in 6 months. We're back on track, and the shareholders were very supportive of that move. So we are continuously doing and look through that cycle, and we invest where it's the right thing to do, because it's pointless. You see the opportunity and you just want to massage it for the 6 months and not doing it.
So you're not feeling any unnecessary pressure from shareholders at the moment?
Not at all.
Talking about the future of the group, so we've said in 5 years, where do you want to look? And you gave me a geographic split, saying 30% basically will come from outside of South Africa, rest of Africa. Is that right?
That is the dream, yes.
Let's look 10 years now out. How the actual makeup of Clover itself, not necessarily from a geographic split, but from product diversification. How big are you going with this vision, this dream that you've got?
You can probably grow Clover 3 times in 10 years. We've got some other very interesting platforms that we're starting to build on, which now that we've relocated the machinery and all the equipment, now you can really start bolting onto those. So there's lots of opportunity here. If you look at we as part of BRICS companies and the countries, and what the focus is, and we're continuously seeing that the international companies are using South Africa as a springboard into Africa, and not Nigeria as a springboard into Africa, but they all want us to be in Nigeria. So I think the South African economy is going to be very healthy still. I think it's going to grow, and there's lots of opportunities. And we see the LSMs coming through, and we're also seeing a high urbanization rate. Now, urbanization for us is very important, because as people come to the cities, they don't have their own cows anymore, for example. They can't use powder anymore because of this, the powder, the quality of water. So the fundamentals are exactly still the same and right of what we wanted to achieve when we listed.
I come back to my history as a dairy farmer's daughter, and when I was doing the research, I saw the names Natal Creamery and then into NCD. Now I remember as a little girl, my father delivering milk to NCD. And my question has to be, and perhaps it's a personal one, in that you say you've got a good relationship with those 280 producers, the farmers. Do you look after the farmer out there? Because there was a time where margins were significantly squeezed, and it was for the producer, the person at the bottom of the chain. Has that changed? Is that mindset one where you're going to nurture the farmers through these? I mean, you speak about the quota system, and that giving them the certainty. Is that what you're doing to give back?
Currently, they're under pressure, but the market can't absorb any more prices, because there was a high milk flow during the last cycle because of the good conditions that they had. So currently we have increased the prices 20 cents, but we're continuously looking at that. But if you're in a agricultural product, whether it's potatoes or roses or apples,
I know this well.
That goes up and down, So, but we try to give them volumes which will enable them to get scale and economies of scale. But I would say out of the 280, you would have a third that are able to absorb it easily, because it is an absorption game, and then later on they, if you look at the graphs, they make more again. I think the bottom third are currently under huge pressure, and we've got to look at that.
How do you solve their problems? I mean, is there an easy fix? Is there a silver bullet to the situation, or is it really that they're going to have to struggle through this?
It is exactly the same as what it is in the rest of the world. When the margins get smaller, they start feeding less and cull some of the cows. then the milk flow comes down. As the milk flow comes down, prices go up. That's the only what you can do.
What external threat exists now? Again, we're talking from a farmer's daughter perspective. You know, you talk about potatoes, and you know, it could be a insect, a flood of insects that destroys your crop. There must be risks to, and you must have mapped out some scenarios on that front, that your producers could be vulnerable. I mean, we've got bird flu at the moment happening in China. Those kind of symptoms, and obviously, I'm just thinking, what could happen to the cows?
Foot and mouth.
That's what I was trying to. That's what I was trying to get
and we've got protocols in place in the country. It used to be policed, or protocol used to be written by the authorities. It's not being done anymore. So we as Clover have done our own protocols, so we know exactly what to do. But then, yeah, of course, you can lose.
Could it wipe you out?
No. You can lose up to between 5 and 10% of your milk for a period until you've resolved that when it's ring fenced. But no, we don't have we don't have threats like that. But one threat that we always have is if one of our big factories, as you become bigger and bigger in your factories and mega factories, and one of them burn down, as we've seen lately with Astropack, it can hurt you quite a bit. But there as well, we've made pretty sure that we'll contain it in certain areas. So those are the external factors that can have an effect on us.
What keeps you awake at night? Is there anything, or do you sleep very well? The economic environment, obviously that's why some of the farmers are struggling. Do you think, from what you're seeing on the ground, that we're going to see our way through this relatively tough period?
If we talk from a farmer's point of view, there will always be ups and downs. As it becomes less, the food, that's the fortunate part that we're in. There's always going to be demand for food, and agricultural products are equally, as I said. So it's fairly inelastic. People use 2.6 billion litres of milk. They need that. If some of the farmers go out of business, which will be very unfortunate, the other farmers will start producing more. So you go through these shortages, ups and downs, and that will always happen. So there will be times when the producers make a lot of money, and there will be a time when they have to absorb a lot of the costs. So that's the two dynamics of it. But I can't see that there can be any. The request for food will only increase over time.
What do you want your legacy to be? Just our final question.
I'm very proud that we could convert a co-op to a company, and let the people who built it up over 100 years got the money for that. That to me was very important. And then to once and for all restructure the business so that all the factories are now in the right place, and that it's a proper business. It's a professional, properly run business. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Johann, thanks so much for your time. I've been speaking to Johann Vorster, the CEO of Clover, and you've been watching Captains of Industry here on CNBC Africa.